football season. My name is Mike Browning. I'm the host of the College Football Road Trip at cfbroadtrip.com. And if you go to my site right now, I have recently posted about the first half of my trip to Ohio when I went to the UMass Toledo game. Toledo is a great city. They have an amazing zoo, an amazing art museum. It's a lot of fun to be at. Over the next week or so, I'll also be posting about the second half of my trip down to the Dayton and Oxford area. That was also a lot of fun. In the meantime, there's a lot of great games going on in week 5, including 4 ranked versus ranked matchups. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's picks. We're going to start off with a Friday night game out of the Big Ten. We have Washington traveling to Rutgers. This is an interesting matchup. Rutgers is undefeated on the season. Washington has one loss to their in-state rival, Washington State. The thing that's interesting to me about these types of matchups moving forward is, will the travel that Washington has to do to go all the way to New Jersey for a Friday night game impact them? That's going to be interesting to see as we go through the entire season, especially towards the end of the season when these teams get tired of all the travel that they have to do. I think this is going to be a close matchup. Rutgers is a lot better team over the past year or so, and Washington is not as good as they were in the past. With all that said, I think Washington will be able to find a way to pull it out in the end. I have Washington winning on the road at Rutgers on Friday night in Big Ten play. Moving to our Saturday matchups, we're going to start off with the Mountain West matchup. We have Fresno State traveling to UNLV. This should be an exciting matchup. Fresno State only has one loss on the year, and that was a loss to Michigan, in which they looked really good for 3 quarters before Michigan put them away. On the flip side, you have UNLV. They have their big win over Kansas a week or so ago. I still think UNLV has a chance to be one of those teams that competes for the final playoff spot at the end of the year. But to do that, they have to go through the season probably undefeated. I don't think even one loss will be enough for them. So obviously they have to win this game, and I think they have enough to do it. I have UNLV winning at home over Fresno State. Next, let's go to a Big 12 matchup. We have Colorado traveling to UCF. UCF is undefeated on the season. They have a big comeback win over TCU a couple weeks ago. On the flip side, you have Colorado. Colorado has only one loss on the season, but they struggled pretty mightily, having to go to double overtime to beat Baylor in a game that they probably should have lost. So Colorado might be slightly better than they were last year, but I still think they have a ways to go before they're competitive in the conference. So in this one, I think UCF, especially being the home team, has the edge. I have UCF winning at home over Colorado in Big 12 play. Next, let's go to what is a non-conference matchup, at least this year. In a couple years, they will be back to being at conference foes in the Pac-12. We have Washington State traveling to Boise State, who's ranked 25th this week. Washington State is undefeated on the season. As I mentioned, they had their big win over Washington a couple weeks ago. They had to come from behind to outlast San Jose State. I believe the final score was 54-52 in that matchup. Boise State has looked pretty good. They have their one loss that they had earlier in the season, but it was a competitive matchup. They looked pretty good in all the other weeks that they played. Just that one loss to Oregon, who is starting to look better on themselves. So the fact that Boise played Oregon close is a good thing for them. So in this one, Boise State, again, is the home team. In close matchups like this, that's who I usually give the edge to. So I have 25th ranked Boise State winning at home over Washington State. Next, let's go to an SEC matchup. We have Arkansas traveling to 24th ranked Texas A&M. A&M only has one loss on the season. That is to Notre Dame in week 1. A Notre Dame team that then lost to Northern Illinois. So I don't know how much confidence I have in that Notre Dame win. They've struggled a little. They struggled to put away Florida a couple weeks ago. On the flip side, you have Arkansas, who only has one loss on the year. That's the Oklahoma State team that came from behind. They did beat Auburn last week, although that was a pretty close matchup that could have gone either way. I don't think either of these teams are great. They're probably both middle of the tier SEC teams. But one of these teams is going to have to win. Again, in close matchups like this, I give the edge to the home team. In this case, that's the Aggies. 24th ranked Texas A&M wins at home over Arkansas. Next, let's go to a Big Ten matchup that will be taking place in LA. We have Wisconsin traveling to 13th ranked USC. USC is obviously coming off their loss to Michigan last week. It's a very competitive matchup that could have gone either way. On the flip side, you have Wisconsin, who's coming off their huge loss to Alabama, in which they weren't very competitive past the first quarter. USC, as I've mentioned, is a much more complete team, at least so far in the season, than they've been the last couple of years. Their defense has started to show some signs. That's really good for them. Wisconsin has come back down the past couple of seasons from being at the top of the pack in the Big Ten for quite a while. I think that fall's going to continue this week when they travel to LA. I think USC will just have too much on both sides of the ball. Have 13th ranked USC winning at home over Wisconsin. Next, let's go back to the Big 12, our first ranked versus ranked matchup. We have 20th ranked Oklahoma State traveling to 23rd ranked Kansas State. This is a really close matchup. Both of these teams are coming off losses last week in their opening of Big 12 play. You have Oklahoma State, who lost to Utah at home in a game that, although the score was close, the game was not overly competitive. On the flip side, Kansas State traveled to BYU and was just walloped by BYU, which is probably one of the biggest surprises of the week. Not necessarily that they lost, but how they lost and how big they lost. The question is, which one of these teams are going to bounce back? It's going to be too close to call. Oklahoma State's offense has struggled so far this year. Because of that, I think they're going to be at a disadvantage, especially being the away team. I think Kansas State is going to find a way to put the Pokes away. I have 23rd ranked Kansas State winning at home over 20th ranked Oklahoma State in Big 12 play. Next, let's go to a matchup coming out of South Bend, Indiana. We have 15th ranked Louisville against 16th ranked Notre Dame. Louisville, as I mentioned last week, is a team that's been kind of flying underneath the radar. They really haven't played any super competitive teams yet, but that will be coming starting this week. On the flip side, Notre Dame has their loss a couple weeks ago to Northern Illinois. They walloped Purdue, but they struggled a little bit in the first half against Miami, Ohio. They ended up putting them away 28-3, but it was a little bit closer than that score has to indicate. Notre Dame just really hasn't been able to put teams away other than that Purdue blowout. Louisville has looked really good. This is, again, the first big competition, but I think they're up for the task. I think they're going to pull off the slight upset on the road this week. 15th ranked Louisville wins on the road at 16th ranked Notre Dame. Next, a Big Ten matchup. We have 19th ranked Illinois traveling to 9th ranked Penn State. Illinois is a team that has looked good this year. They have a couple wins over ranked teams. They beat a ranked Kansas team, although Kansas has struggled since then. They had the win over Nebraska last week that they came from behind to be able to win there. So you cannot knock a team for winning two ranked matchups so far this year. On the flip side, you have Penn State. Penn State struggled in week 2 against Bowling Green, but has looked a little bit better since then. Illinois is not going to be able to continue to come from behind against ranked teams, especially on the road. I think that gives the Nittany Lions the edge. 9th ranked Penn State wins at home over 19th ranked Illinois. And then finally, the big matchup of the week, one of the biggest matchups of the year, second-ranked Georgia traveling to fourth-ranked Alabama. This is going to be a great matchup. Both of these teams have a lot to play for in the SEC. Even the loser is still kind of in the playoff hunt, but the winner is in the driver's seat going down towards the rest of the season. Georgia really struggled against Kentucky last week, had a really hard time putting points on the board. Alabama has been a second half team. They struggled mightily against South Florida in that first half, but put them away in the second. Struggled a little bit against Wisconsin in the first half, put them away in the second. My big question is, will Georgia bounce back? They had a huge win against Clemson in week 1, then struggled against Kentucky last week. Is the team that played Clemson going to show up? If so, Georgia wins. Is the team that played Kentucky going to show up? If so, Alabama will probably win. I think it's going to be a wake-up call for Georgia. I think they're going to be able to go in Tuscaloosa and put things away in the second half. It'll be close. Alabama will keep it close in the first half. Georgia will find a way to win in the end. It'll be a close matchup, but Georgia will win. I have second-ranked Georgia winning on the road at fourth-ranked Alabama in what should be an amazing matchup. So again, great games. Go check them out. Go check out my blog entry about my trip to Toledo. We will see all of you again next week.